Good morning. Today I'm working on the bases for my artist trading cards. I think I've done a couple of videos of decorating them, but I never showed you how I do the bases. And today I was sitting down to do some and I thought, well, I could film this because some people wouldn't know. I know when I tell people in person how I've done it, they look at me like I have two heads. They don't quite get it. So anyway, I have told people, and I wanted to show you that I use these Trivial Pursuit cards. They're the question and answers for Trivial Pursuit. I got a free game at an estate sale after I had finished paying for my stash that I had collected throughout the house. I saw the Trivial Pursuit game sitting there and I said, "Oh, Trivial Pursuit. I'll take that too." And she says, "Oh, you can have it." So I took it, and this is what I intended to do with it, was to use these cards and decorate them as I was thinking at the time, just for putting in a journal. But now I thought of this idea of having them for like a calling card. So I've done a bunch, one side of a bunch of them last night and cut them out. And so today I wanted to find some coordinating papers to go with these different designs. I got a bunch of tie-dye, a bunch of leaves, a couple of beige patterns, a nice aqua pattern with like a rusty spot in it, some that's like lined notebook paper, some tape measures, which I think would be cool for a sewing journal, and then some of my photocopied lace with a purple background. So a few different ones that I'm looking for a background to go with, and then some blank ones. So I've got this big pad of paper that I believe it was from Karen, my mom's friend, my friend. She gave me a whole big pad of paper, and I'm pretty sure this was the one she gave me. So I'm kind of, because I've got mostly patterns, like these two I could use as the back of the card. Usually what I do is have a bit more pattern on the front and decorate it, and then I want the back fairly plain, so it can be used to take a note. I put my YouTube sticker on there. Not sticker, but my YouTube logo and the name of my channel, and then I sign it. So the backs I keep kind of plain, so that if I'm giving this card out and someone wants like my phone number or my email address or anything else that I would need to jot down for them, maybe the price of something or whatever. So the fronts on these, this is a tie-dyed one that I stamped on, and then again the back is sort of coordinating but plain. And then these ones, you can see there's a bit more pattern on the front than on the back. So there's the lace one with a collage over top, and then the back's just plain purple, so it kind of coordinates. And that one, the coordinating paper was letting the print from the Trivial Pursuit card come through, so I just put some graph paper over top of it. So that's the finished product that we're making the bases for today. So I just keep these in a little pouch in my purse so that I've always got them to hand out when I'm out and about. So I'm just looking through this pad to see if there's some papers that will coordinate really well with these patterns I already have. Oh, those are just coming right out as I flip the pages. I like these prints, but they're not quite the right colors. I like, oh, there's a nice blue. Some of these are two-sided. I do like blue. But this one could go well with this, my tie-dyes. but some of them don't have the blue in it. I think I might pick a different color for these ones. There's 4 different tie-dyed papers here. There's 6x6 papers. I think I have enough here to make it worthwhile to do this sheet. And then maybe just find a coral or a yellow or something to go with these ones. So I'll set that aside. And I continue to look for more possibilities here. More of that same blue. There's a lighter one that could go with this, and maybe this, although that's a bit more aqua. It certainly could go with these. So I'll set that aside. And even if I don't have enough of those cards to fill that page, then I'll fill it in with some ones that are in the first stage. Purple's pretty. And I am kind of looking for solid-ish colors right now. I wouldn't mind an aqua or a green to go with that. There's a nice, fairly plain beige print. That would be a possibility for a back too. Now this red would go really good with this, wouldn't it? So I'm going to do some of those. That's not quite right. Maybe a little picky on color. Not the same one. No. Make that a bit more beige, which I might have trouble finding. I think they put too many plain beiges in these books. And I'm not saying it can't have pattern, but I'm just sort of like, these ones could be backs of cards, and then I could do something different on the front. Just needs to coordinate in my mind. That's a really nice blackish one. That would actually look good with these. And maybe this could be the front and this could be the back, and I could do even some dot painting or something on that. That's something I've been wanting to try. I've done dot painting, but just trying it on my ATCs is what I mean. I have so much scrap paper that I don't even know what I have. Scrapbook paper. And the other thing that I've been thinking is, with all this fabric that I have, I should do some fabric ATC cards as well. So that'll be something that I try in the very near future. I'm just trying to get ahead of them because they are disappearing as fast as I can make them. So that might work, although that's pretty plain on both sides. That's too aqua, I think. I love this color. Maybe I'll just do some stage 1 ones on that color. I really want to use it. I think that's the same color. Keep looking at it, thinking I want to use it. So that might be a better one to put with this. That's pretty too. Just trying trying to think if that would be very good for doing a collage on. Maybe this would be better for doing a collage on. So I'll do those ones on there. I love that there's more than one of each color. Each. That would be good. Not quite, eh? It's not horrible, but that maybe just needs coffee dyed paper. I could do that too. I did that on a bunch of them. It's not quite right either. I don't know if you can see on the screen what I mean. It's just not the right shade of green. It needs to be that soft silvery sage. I love this. I've got to do some of those. I'll do just one-sided ones on that. This may be, no, I'm going to do some of that too though. Pretty. Not quite right though, is it? Into some earth tones here. There's another purple and another pink. I don't think that's quite right. It's a little more reddish, pinkish. There's a nice brown. Now that could work. That'll do. And I could just as easily do coffee dyed, like I said, but I'll do that. And let's just see if we can find, I do like those roses. And that's still that same purple. Another brown. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Probably won't get through all of those in the video anyway. That's bad too. That's not the right purple either. Even for the dark one, it's not the right shade. That's okay. That's going to give us plenty to play with. Okay, so we'll start with this brown. I have a little tray that I keep the ones in that need to be done. And then these will get glued up and pressed under something heavy overnight or through the day. I'll do it all day today. And what I've been doing this morning is just gluing right on the back side of the page, sort of right where I'm going to put it, so that I don't get the rest of the page all gluey. So I use my glue stick all over the back, and then I take my tacky glue and just do around the edge, pretty close to the edges, and then just a squiggle in the middle. And then I'll line it up with the two edges of the paper for the first one, so that I don't have to cut that off. So I try to get it as even with the edge of the page as possible. And just give it a little rub down. And then I'll place the next one, do the same thing. I found that when I just used the glue stick alone, it would peel up a little bit on the corners and sometimes even bubble through the middle. So then I started doing the tacky glue as well. It could just be the heat and the humidity in the air right now, but it's just the glue stick isn't enough. And then I'm trying to rub it so that that tacky glue ends up right on the edges, really holding them down. And so then later on this evening, when we're watching TV, I will be cutting these out. That's what I did last night. I glued up a bunch yesterday afternoon, these ones. And then last night when we were watching TV, I was cutting them out. And really easy to do when you're watching TV. You can just let your scissors follow the edge of the card, so you don't really even have to watch that closely what you're doing. And then you just pile them up and get ready for the next step. I think before that I was fussy cutting cute little pictures out of a Mary Maxim catalog. Even did some punches, little round circle punches of just where they have the little swatches of the yarn. It has the texture of the yarn. It doesn't just show a color. So I did little circles of that. And then where they showed a ball of yarn, I fussy cut them because I thought those would be cute. They're small and they'd be cute for a sewing or a knitting journal. I do have one friend, actually, she's a friend of my sister's, but she's an avid knitter. And so I could make her a little bookmark or a little notebook with balls of yarn and yarn texture on the pages. I've only met Lisa, I think, once or twice, but we've been kind of friends on Facebook, and I can tell she's just a fun person from the stories my sister tells. I don't know if I'm going to get one more. I've spaced them just a little bit because I find it's easier to get the scissors in between and get close if you've got a little space. You could put them tight together, but then you can't. Your scissors won't follow the edge of the card when you cut. I'll show you what I mean. So I take my scissors and I run them along the edge of the card. Like I kind of push them over until they reach the card stops them, and then I cut. So that but if the two cards are butted tight together, then you can't get your scissors in there. So that's why I leave the space. And so what that'll give me is a strip of this brown paper, which I can then keep, of course, and I might even keep it with these cards so that I can use maybe a torn piece of it on the front or something to start my collage off. So it's always okay to have a little strip of leftovers from something like this. You can always use it on the front. Yeah, so you're not going to want to watch me do all of these, but I'll just show you. So this is obviously step 2 or step 3. First step would be gluing down a card that has nothing on it yet. And then step 2, I guess technically would be drying that card, but step 2 is cutting those out. And then this would be step 3, which is gluing something on the back. And I've tried before gluing both sides at once, but then you can't get to that edge of the card to guide you. You're kind of cutting blind. So I prefer to do one side, trim it really neatly, and then do the other side and then trim that really neatly. And then after I've got the both sides covered and trimmed, the next step is usually rounding the corners. I always round the corners on these. For one thing, it is easier if they're going to be putting in a pocket or a tuck spot. It's easier if it has rounded corners. It doesn't get caught and doesn't damage the corners. And then the other thing is that it kind of looks nice. And then the other reason I do it is because the glue is probably heavier because of the way I do this. I do like a little circle and then a line and then a circle and then a line and then a circle and then a line. So cutting off that very corner where the glue might not be as good as it is just in a little bit, and then that corner is firmly glued. So kind of 3 reasons. I always like to have 3 reasons for something. I think it was Marlene Maskell, my old Tupperware lady. I should not say old. My Tupperware lady when I was a little girl, when I was a teenager, she always had 3 uses for each Tupperware item. And that would justify, you know, why we should buy it. And I remember that so much. I think she even said something about that you need to have at least 3 uses for everything. And she would come up with the 3 uses, 3 things that it would fit in the container, or 3 things a gadget would do for you. And that has stuck with me my whole career of service and selling, is that you need to have certainly more than 1 use for something makes it a better buy, but 3 is just sort of that magic number, right? So Marlene, if you're watching, you've inspired me my whole life. She used to have the most fun Tupperware parties. She did this thing where she was pretending to mix batter in a bowl, and she would get her whole body into it, hips and all, and it was so fun. She's a character, is a character. I saw her again a few weeks ago at a line dancing reunion that I went to with my dad. She ended up being Mom and Dad's line dancing teacher after years and years after she did our Tupperware parties. And because of COVID, they haven't been doing that much anymore. And they had a little reunion. We didn't dance, but we really enjoyed meeting up with some of the friends that Dad hadn't seen for a few years. And I gave out some of my artist trading cards at that reunion. So hopefully some of the girls are watching. So just lining it up with the edge again, as close as I can. I see that one is just off. My little tiny pink scissors take care of those little slivers. I think these are going to be nice to decorate. I love the willow leaf pattern. I used to have wallpaper like this in my kitchen. We have a big willow tree out in our yard, and it was one of the main reasons I wanted to buy the house, actually. It was 2 or 3 reasons. It's a nice old country farmhouse, which I love. The willow tree, when we looked at the house, the willow branches were all the way to the ground. And it was nice. It was long grass. There was nobody living here, so the grass was long. And it was just so romantic looking, this willow tree with the leaves going all the way down. You could walk in underneath the branches and you were in a little room. So that sold me right there. And then in this room where I work, the dining room and living room is kind of one big room with a little bit of a wall, but a huge opening between the two rooms. And it's tall ceilings because it's an old house. And then the ceiling in these rooms is the fancy tin ceiling. And that was the second thing that just I loved. Got to have this house so I can have this ceiling. And the first couple nights we stayed here overnight, we stayed in a air mattress on the floor in the middle of the living room, and I just laid there and looked up at the ceiling all night. I just love it. A little sliver that got trimmed off last night. Yeah, so I just love my tin ceilings. And we discovered once we started renovating a little, or not really renovating, we didn't really renovate these rooms, we just decorated them. But when we changed the light fixtures, we could see that as old as these tin ceilings likely are, they're not the original ceilings. There was wallpaper underneath them. You could see that when we changed the light fixtures. So probably the farmer's wife wanted a fancy look, so she wallpapered the ceiling, and then there was probably some traveling salesman that came around and sold her on the tin ceiling eventually. Probably done fairly early in the house's life, but I mean the house was probably built in the mid 1800s. The town where we are is established in 1850. So the house may have been here before the town was established, or soon after. It's one of the larger farmhouses that's scattered along the county road here. Smaller, newer ones in between, so it's one of the older ones. So that's one page done and ready to be basically pressed. I'll just go ahead and put it underneath my bin of papers here. And we'll start on the next one. The next one that I've got is just a step one. So I'll do the red. I just love this ticking stripe. Love, love, love it. So as long as I start off even with the edge, I should be good for as far as keeping them straight. So here I'm using a card that hasn't been done yet. And I'm going to start with the card that has the dark spot on it. I don't think you're going to be able to see that through the dark part. And again, circle. And just follow the edge of the card, and then a squiggle in the middle. So I'll do this sheet, and then I'll grab the one we just did and do some cutting on it. Just to show you the process of cutting them out and edging them. And then there will be a whole bunch of videos where I decorate. I want to document the ones that I'm making and my process for them, as much for myself as for you guys. Just because knowing me, I will only do, a dozen of each one, and then they'll never be the same again. Unless I find a design that I absolutely just love and kind of feel it's almost like my trademark, then I might do tons of them, but I'm a sampler kind of gal. I like to try all the different things, and once I've done it, I don't really want to go back and do it again. That's why I find it hard when someone wants me to make them something similar to what I've already made. I don't want to do it. I want to start something new every time. I've always been that in any craft that I've done. Like someone sees a painting that someone else has and they want me to do another one. It's like, no, I've already done that one. It's out of my system. So for me as a crafter, I would much rather, like as a seller of crafts, I would much rather you just buy what I make if you like it, but I don't really care too much to take orders. It's not fun anymore if it's more like work when you have to do it the way someone else wants you to do it, instead of, like, if I was to sit down and like I did a post not too long ago of a dot painting that I did. It was a white background, and then it was laid out like peacock feathers, and it was done in peacock colors. So if I was to sit down and do another one of those, it wouldn't come out the same. I would end up doing something different. So if someone saw it and wanted one just like it, that would be torture for me. It would be absolute torture, because I would be trying so hard to make it identical for them to please them. But another creative idea that could have made it better might come along, and I would feel like I couldn't do it. So I just shy away from taking those kinds of orders. The other thing is I'm usually using things that I have. So in the case of the paper crafting, like I'm using up scraps or something to make something. And then if someone wants me to make another one, I don't have those scraps anymore. So it'd be like, well, I can make you something similar, but it won't be the same. And that gives me a little more freedom to make what I want to make. I think a lot of creative people are like that. There's a lot of sellers that aren't really doing it from a creative standpoint, like they're making things with their Cricut, or not to say that's not creative, but you know, you can create the exact same thing every time if you're using a Cricut. And if it's something that sells and you keep making it and it doesn't bother you to make the same thing all the time, you could be quite profitable at that. Probably even more profitable than someone who does one-of-a-kind items. But I do prefer my items to be a little closer to the one-of-a-kind. And just not to be snobby, just because I don't like making the same thing twice, mainly. Now these cards are going to all be similar. They have the same backing, same fronts probably. You know, I might do at least 6 of a kind, whatever fits on a page that I'm working with. The tie-dye ones are 6x6 scrapbook paper, so 4 of those fit on a 6x6. No, yeah, 4 of them, if I place them just so, will fit on the 6x6 scrapbook paper. But even then, the 4 individual cards are different than each other because of where they land on that tie-dye paper. Now on the weekend I did 3 pages of each tie-dye color, and there's 4 different ones. So they're all very similar, but they won't get the exact same thing on the front either. So even though I did a bunch of them that were similar on the front, I did vary. I was doing black stamping on them, and they did vary. So this part might seem a little boring, but I enjoy this. And usually I've got a YouTube video going, so I'm always learning and seeing new ideas. This is why I got into this craft, was from YouTube, so I continue to watch and look for ideas or see something that will spark an idea for me. I don't do a lot of straight copying, but I certainly get ideas from the videos that I watch. I take something I've seen and I'll put my own spin on it, or do it, make it out of a different material or something different. There are hardly any original ideas left. I have got a couple of comments that someone will say, oh, I haven't seen that done before. Like for instance, the little notebooks that I made out of the wrappers from the Christmas crackers from last year's dinner. You know, a lot of people commented and said, oh, that's an original one. I haven't seen that before. And it's just one more type of paper that you can reuse that people normally toss out. And like I said, I'm pretty sure my family thought I was pretty crazy for wanting to keep those, but I used them. I think the most interesting thing that I hadn't thought of that I got in a swap was Band-Aids with cute little pictures on them. So for a kid's journal especially, that would be really cute. They come in all different designs nowadays. And then the other thing, I got some patterned duct tape on a package from a swap. I thought that was unique too, and I saved it. And I've used some. I used it to make a tab on a page. Nice durable tab that you can grab. One more, and then I'll show you my cutting out technique. And then I'll probably turn off the camera and finish up this pile. And you'll see them in future decorating videos. This video's plenty long enough already, but I'll just show you a little cutting. And if you've watched this far, thank you very much. I'll switch this out for one that's done. Actually, I'll do one that's been drying for a little bit. I did these about maybe an hour before I started the video, so they've been drying for a little while. So here I've got some in various stages. I've got some that are done on one side and I've glued them down, and then I've got a few that I just used to fill in and finish up this page that were the first step. But that's the other side of the paper. This was a printable, and I just blew it up and printed it on ledger paper. So I'll just take my scissors and I slide them over till they meet the card and just cut along that edge. Don't usually do this sitting at my table. Usually I'm in my hammock relaxing, watching the tube. And this one I didn't go right to the edge because my page had a white border on it, so I've got to cut that off. I mean, I suppose I could have left the white border and covered it up with a piece of lace or something, but, or a strip of something, paper. Yeah, and then I'll just make a pile of the one-sided ones ready to be done on the other side. So these ones are really close together, so you can see it's more difficult to get your scissors in there. Blade of your scissors is varying thicknesses, but this one's pretty thick. And I always like to cut on the right side. Like I wouldn't cut this here because my scissor blade thickness would hold my scissors out from the edge of the card. I don't know if you know what I mean, but try it and you'll see. I always cut on the right side of the card. This feels like it's not quite dry. That's why that's kind of rolling on me. Got a bit of glue on my fingers. Okay, so these ones, you can see I've kind of lined them up. If I run my finger down there, I don't feel any difference in spacing. This is kind of hard to see because of the white on white. I don't use a lot of white. But this music paper with the bees on it, I just had to use. It'll probably get distressed around the edges, and then you can see that's just a white strip because it was also wasn't the full length of the paper. You can see that there. So there's a spot there that I can see right away that needs trimmed, and I do find that my little scissors help with that better. I've got some that's being stubborn and curling on me. I will use those to trim it up. These ones are very close together. I was trying to squeeze them in. And now these, because they're already done on the side facing up, they're ready to be processed further. So I'll just make sure that they're trimmed on 4 sides. And normally I would stack them all up and do this later, but just so that I can show you in the video without making you wait another half hour, I'll show you what I do next. So that's got the music paper on one side and this crackled finished white background paper on the other side. And then the next step that I would do is my rounding over, and this is a 4mm radius round over punch. So I do that. Usually I do this while I'm watching TV as well. If you get a rough edge from your cutting, you can always sand it with your emery board to get it smoothed out. And then I would take my ink. Now in this case, I think I will use Vintage Photo. I would be tempted to do gray on this. Maybe I will try the gray first because I can always go over it with a brown later. Can't go back. So this is Hickory Smoke archival ink. And this I have been using for black, so this might come out a little darker than the Hickory Smoke would normally be. But yeah, I think I like that instead of the sepia tone on this card. The bees do have a little bit of a beigey tone in them, so it could go either way. But if I want to, I can come in and put some more beige with some ink later. I think I'll leave it like this for now. That's sort of the steps that I do before, even before I start to decorate, is trimming and inking, trimming, rounding, and inking. So I'll do another one. If you're still watching, you're my favorite, as my one YouTube friend says. But please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really does help. Helps you to see more of my videos, and it also helps the YouTube algorithm to know that they should share my videos more if people like and comment and share and subscribe. I don't want to do big. I like to do the small corners so that they still look like a trading card. Actually, I'll do one in the other color just so you can see the difference. Do the lighter, the Vintage Photo. I also have ground espresso if I want something deeper and darker. I like the way that looks too, especially with the bee. The other one didn't have a bee on it, just had a bee's butt right there. So that helps it coordinate a bit and just shows you the difference between the gray ink, grayish black ink, and the Vintage Photo. It does give it a different effect. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing my process on this. I'm going to continue on through this pile and see how many I can get done and ready for the next step. So thanks for watching, and again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Most of all, have a great day.